Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of DABCC Live. So, guys, thank you so much for attending this webinar, this DABCC Live webinar. Hopefully, you guys have attended one in the past. We do these things a little bit different than typical webinars. We're going to take a lot of questions from you guys, and we're not going to wait till the end. We're going to do it throughout the process. So definitely feel free to. You guys have already doing it for giving me the feedback about how the audio sounds. So please use the questions box in it as we go through this, as the guys from ObserveIT go through this. Definitely ask as many questions as possible. And my job as the host and the moderator here is to make sure that I ask them your questions, and we will get through as many as possible, even if we have to stay a little bit late. And so that being said, again, thank you so much for attending the webinar today. I see a lot of people are still jumping on, so that's good. So let's just get started. So I want to introduce my guests for today, and we have some amazing guys with us, and an amazing product. So bear with me a second. I have one more little housekeeping thing here. We are recording this webinar also, so let me make sure I have that done properly. Okay, so we are good to go. Okay, so we have some amazing guys today. We have Daniel Petrie with us, who you might know Daniel from his website. He has an amazing website, and I'll have Daniel explain that real quick when he explains who he is. Then we also have Gabrielle from ObserveIT too. So these guys are going to show us this amazing technology for session recording around terminal services and Citrix and VMware View and all these different things. And this is some cool stuff. So with no further ado, let's just dive into it. So guys, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and do this webinar with us.
Thank you very much, Doug. My name is Gabby Friedlander. I'm the CTO for ObserveIT, and with me online here is Daniel Petrie. As Doug said, some of you may know him also from his website, petrie.co.il. The agenda for today is to show you our software, ObserveIT software, and talk about our free version, the ObserveIT Xpress, show you the limitation and talk about what it can do for you. And when we say free, we mean totally free, no time limit. So, when you go on and download it, you can have it for as long as you need. This next thing we're going to talk about is the ObserveIT Professional Edition, and we'll show the differences between the free version and the Professional Edition. We're also going to talk about the architecture. What does it require? What does it take to install the Express or the Professional Edition? We're going to talk also about Windows 2008 R2. This is something that Daniel will cover in more detail. And we also will talk about competitive analysis and specifically about Citrix Smart Auditor. So let's start with what is ObserveIT. ObserveIT is a Windows session recording system, meaning that it will record every step somebody takes on the screen, every action, in a way that you can later play it back. We record not only terminal server and Citrix, we record basically any remote access, including VMware View, including PC Anywhere, VNC, and so on, and of course also published applications, and of course Citrix desktop mode. So let's start to show you what is the Express version. The Express version, as I said before, it's a free version. You can download it from our website. It has no time limit, but the limit is that you can play back only the past 24 hours. So it will record and retain all data, so it will not delete anything. You will have access to the metadata that we will display to you during this demo, so you can still see what users did even past 24 hours. But as for video playback, you will have only the past 24 hours, and it is only limited to 5 servers. So usually this is good for monitoring your most important servers, and when something goes wrong, you can go back. Usually things go wrong during the 24 hours, so this will help you find exactly what happened. And I think once you see the product and you will see the metadata capturing, you will see how valuable is the metadata, even if you don't have the video recording. So let me show you the Express version, and I want to transfer now the presentation to Daniel Petrie. He will cover this free version, and afterwards I'll get back to you with showing you the professional edition and cover some of the advanced searching and reporting capabilities. So with that said, I'm passing Daniel Petrie.
Hi all, this is Daniel Petrie speaking. As Gabby said, this is the ObserveIT Xpress version demo, and in it I will show you how to use our product and get a visual audit trail of what your users are doing on your servers. So in front of us is our web console. Everything in ObserveIT is managed through a browser window, so there's no need to install any client software in order to manage it. And after logging on, and right now I'm logged on as an administrator, we see actually two separate areas. One of them is the area where you watch and replay sessions, and the other one is where you make configuration changes. The server diary is the first page that we see, and in it we can see that we're currently looking at a specific server called TSTQA SRV2. We can actually browse for other servers if we need to, and we can easily select it from the list. But in this case, I will use this server. And on this page, what I can see right now is the list of sessions that were performed on this machine. So for example, we see that today, a user called administrator has logged on to the machine at 2:48 p.m. and used a session that took around 13 minutes. And in that session, he performed around 190 actions. And of course, I can immediately start the replay and begin watching the video. This is what I'm going to do right now. And in the replay, which is actually kind of big on this screen, we can see that we can move through the user actions, and I'll explain what we see in a moment. And we can easily see that the user touched, in this case, the SQL Server Management Studio Express and so on. But the nice thing about ObserveIT is that you do not have to watch the entire video just to know what is going on, because ObserveIT captures not only screenshots, but also textual metadata of what exactly is seen on the screen at each moment. So I can easily expand the session, and I can get a quick textual transcript of what went on in that session. And by reading it, I can easily determine if I need to replay the session or not, or if there is something specific that I really need to know. For example, in this case, I see that someone, in this case the administrator, touched the group policy management console. So I will go and click on the replay button, and I will be sent to that exact point in time. And I can now see, in a moment I will see, that the user has opened the group policy management console, or in this case got a message about it, and I can begin clicking around and see what the user did in that application. So as you can see, it's very easy to determine what's going on in each session. And if I look around at these sessions, then each session has a clear representation of the date and the time of the user logging on and the time when they logged off. Now, the ObserveIT Express edition is limited in three ways. Actually, it's not time limited, but there are three limitations. One of them is that you cannot replay sessions older than 24 hours. So in this case, if I look at an older session, such as one that took place a few days ago, then I can see the textual transcript of what went in that session. But if I replay the session, then there's no data show. So this is the first limitation of the Express edition. But even without having to actually replay the session visually, having the metadata here is a very good gives you a very good understanding of what went on in that session. In this case, we can see that someone, again, the administrator, touched the registry editor and edited the binary value. I cannot see what exactly he did, but I have a good understanding of what went on. Another thing I can do here is go through user sessions. And user sessions can, again, instead of focusing on a server, I can look for a specific user. In this case, I will look for a user called Daniel. And I will click on Go. And I will get all the sessions that that user had on, in this case, one machine. And I can see that Daniel logged onto this server from a computer called Six. And again, I can expand the session and I can see what went on in that session without having to replay it. Now, if the session was from today, then I would have been able to replay it. But because it's an older one, then again, the visual data is not available. Actually, the data is still stored inside our SQL Server database, but because this is an Express edition, there is no access to it. But theoretically, if you would upgrade the license to the Professional edition, then all this data is available and you can immediately start working with it.
Hey, Daniel, we have our
where I can.
Daniel,
Sorry?
we have our first question that I'd like to ask from the audience here, and that is, you're showing us all this stuff, and this looks great, but what did it take you to get to this point? So what did it take you to install the product so that we can get to, start seeing what you're showing us?
Okay, so in order to get ObserveIT to start working, all you need to do is first download it from our website. You can simply download a zipped file and just extract it. And then you have to prepare your settings. And that means that you need one machine that will host the server applications and a SQL Server database that will store the data. Now, for small implementations, this can be the same machine, like an all-in-one server. And that means that you can install SQL Express or the full version of SQL Server and install IIS on that machine, and then install the ObserveIT application server, which is a very easy to perform installation. It's just a one-click installation. You just double-click on the setup file, and that's about it. Now, in order to record specific machines, you need to deploy the agent on those machines. And the second limitation of the ObserveIT Express edition is that you can only record up to 5 machines. But again, you can easily install the agent. It's a one-click installation. You double-click on a file, and the agent will start to run immediately. There is no need to reboot the machine. Does this answer the question?
I would, if that was a question from the audience, so if that answered your question, definitely let us know. And if it did not, let us know. I do want to add one follow-up question to that, and that is, can that be a virtual server? So let's say it's a smaller company or the load's just not as big. Could that be virtual, or does it have to be a big physical box?
Yes, of course. The machine can be a virtual machine, and it actually just depends on the load that you're planning to have. And we do have a lot of clients that record up to hundreds of servers, and they're all being monitored by one virtual machine that is stored on a VMware server or in a Hyper-V server. And yes, it can be a virtual machine. Now, again, for performance considerations, if this is a very large deployment, again, of hundreds of machines, then you would probably need to, you would probably want to separate the SQL Server database from that machine. So actually have 2 machines.
Perfect. And then I have 2 questions that are the same question, and that is, what kind of memory overhead, what kind of footprint do you guys putting on this on the Citrix boxes? For example, one user says here, in fact, now we have 3 questions on this. One user says, I have 40 users running concurrently. Will this put any impact upon our, those 40 users?
Yeah, well, first of all, let me answer the performance issue, and then I'll probably transfer the question to Gabby because I would like him to address the licensing issues for Citrix or terminal servers. But as for performance considerations, The agent itself does not use a lot of resources. We're talking about around 10 megabytes of RAM used per session for the agent software. So this means that if this is one machine that has administrative, sessions on it, like one or two administrators logging on, then that's not a lot of memory. Now, if you've got a Citrix machine that has 40 concurrent sessions at the same time, then you would probably need to multiply that and get around 400 megabytes of memory. That's the memory overhead. As for CPU, because the ObserveIT agent does not constantly record the screen, it does not stream the data out. It only records user actions. This means that, for example, right now, the agent doesn't do anything because I'm not performing any user action. So even with concurrent sessions, most users usually pause for seconds or minutes at the time and read the screen and do other stuff. So we're talking about 1% CPU usage, but you do not need to multiply that 40 times because again, this is not an instant capture at all the 40 sessions at the same time. As for network performance, we know about large deployments that, again, have a lot of terminal servers, and we've seen no real network latency issues because of the ObserveIT agent. We're talking about around 15 or 16 kilobytes of data per screenshot, and again, this is not something that will overwhelm your network. We can even work across WAN links if that is needed.
Well, that sounds good. Any I/O concerns?
The agent doesn't write anything to the local disk unless you enable offline recording, and that is only when there is network downtime, when there is no connection to the ObserveIT server. And if this option has been enabled, then the agent will write a local file. And that, again, is limited to the number of slides that you want to capture. So it will not, fill up your disk and make your server go boom. But there is no I/O on the disk when the agent is running.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So let's move on with the webinar, and we'll come back to questions in a little bit.
Okay. So another very interesting place we can use is the free text search area, which we can use to perform textual searches. For example, if I want to see who touched the SQL Server management or something that is related to SQL Server, then I just need to type the right word and click on search, and then I get all the results. I can filter by the username, I can filter by the server name, and I can even look at the dates and just, see the stuff that I'm interested in. And again, if I expand the session, then I can easily see all the places when that word appeared. And actually, anything that appears on the textual transcript can be searched for, and more than that. And that was something that Gabby will explain when he will demonstrate the reports engine. The last area which we can cover is the configuration area. This is where I make configurational changes to the ObserveIT application server and the way that the agents capture the data. For example, configure it to filter specific users or filter specific applications, exclude users, recording color, and so on. The thing is that the Express edition is limited because in a way that means that you cannot make any configuration changes to the product. So what you see is what you get. The professional edition, which Gabby will explain in a moment, allows you to make a lot of changes to the product, the way it records, the way it works, the way it integrates with Windows, and I will let him explain it in a moment. So this is the Express edition, and as Gabby said, it's completely free. You can download it, install it on your machine, use a virtual machine if you need to, record up to 5 servers, and get a very good visual and textual representation of what's going on your machine. I will pass the mic to Gabby this moment.
Okay, so I hope this was useful to you, the Express version. As Daniel said, it's a free download version, so all of you go ahead and download it. Let's continue with showing you the professional edition. Again, we won't cover all the features, but I do want to share with you guys some of the main features that include the reporting section, as well as some of the configuration options that are available in the professional and not available in the Express free edition. So the first thing I want to share with you is the reporting. The reporting allows you to take any part of the metadata that we collect and create from it a report that can be either ran ad hoc, or you can have it scheduled and sent to you via email every day, every week, every month, basically whenever you define. So the first report that I want to show you is one of our predefined reports, which is admin-related tasks. So this report will show you a summary of the most common administrative tasks people take on servers. So let me run this report for you. What this does, it looks for keywords, this report. So it looks for keywords that include things such as new objects. So it's very common for this keyword to appear whenever you create a new object, such as a group in the Active Directory or a user. Things such as delete, when somebody deletes a file, or safely remove when it's a USB or an external device, shut down Windows, and so on. So you can see here some of the keywords that we added. So what you see here is you have the date and time that each action was performed. You can see the login name. You can see the server that this command was ran at, and you can see which application and exactly what the command was. So if we scroll down, we can see the new object group. We can see things such as add and remove program files, a specific folder that includes a setup application, a deletion of a folder, and so on. So we can go down and see a lot of admin tasks, which are very intuitive to understand. We can also very easily play back any of these actions using the video playback, and it will open the video at that exact point in time. So instead of having to find it, not only that you have the action itself in the report, but now you can also play it back and see exactly what was performed, and not only the action itself. So this is a GPO, for example, and we can see the user changing settings. So let's see what other options we have to configure this report. If we go to the Edit section, the first thing that we have all these columns which represent metadata that ObserveIT collects. So you can see, for example, username, login name. You can see the server name. You can see things such as window titles, application names, when the session started and when it ended, the machine name that was used to initiate the connection to the server, the client address, and many more options. The next thing is grouping. Grouping allows you to summarize the data. So before, what we've seen is a flat table report. Now, let's say that I want to have this report grouped by server name. So all I need to do is pick here the server name. I can press preview at any time, and I can see, just a second here, I can see the report before saving and how it will look. So we can see that we grouped it by server. Now we can see all the servers, and we can expand the report, and we can see per server the administrative tasks. So instead of having a flat table, now I can pinpoint a specific server and see the details regarding that server. I can also select just a specific server. Let's say I want to see details on this server and on that server, and then I can show selected details. And now I can see all administrative tasks related to that server during that time frame. So as you build the report, you can always preview and see the results before saving it, which helps a lot in creating a report. The next thing that you can do is select the criteria. We can select the time range. So currently it's the past 1 year, but we can pick days, weeks, months, and so on. And we can include any metadata as a filter. So we can select just a specific list of servers or users. In this case, I selected the window title, and then I included a list of keywords that I'm looking within that window title. And this came up with the result that you've just seen. Now I can finish. I can save the report. I can also see the query. So if I'm looking to create queries that are not included, I can see how ObserveIT built the query, and I can run them manually on the SQL Server. I can also schedule this report and have it sent to any user or group of users at predefined intervals. So I can have it sent to me daily, weekly, monthly, and I can also include a start date and an end date. So this covers the report. One more thing that I want to add, I'm going to show you next the configuration and the granular permission that we can define for every user, what he's allowed or not allowed to see. But with that said, you can also use that configuration to define that users will get different results based on their permission to playback sessions. So for example, if the same report was to be sent to the database administrator, and we defined that the database administrator can view sessions only off the SQL servers, then the report will include only records related to the database servers, and he will not have the full list of all sessions from all servers. So let's cover some of the configuration options. The first thing is defining permission for users. So we understand that it's not only about recording, it's also about setting access to these recordings, because some of the recordings can contain sensitive data, and we want to make sure that no one who's not ought to see that session is looking at it. So now you can define that a specific user, for example, can see sessions only of specific servers, such as the DBA can see sessions only of the database servers. We can also define that a specific user can see sessions only of other users. So you do not need to have everybody access to all sessions. You can really granularly define exactly what you want each person to view. We also have an audit that will include all access to all sessions. So not only we can define who has access to which session, we also have the audit that shows you which sessions were played back by which user. In terms of what we can configure a server to record, we can record things, we can set policies such as record all users, which is the default. We can exclude users from being recorded. For example, if I was to record my own PC, probably I would not like to record myself, but if somebody else connects to my PC, I want to record him, so I can do that here. I can also record just predefined users, if it's remote vendors, consultants that you wish to record, but you do not wish to record your own staff, you can do it here. And the same goes for applications. So I do not need to record all applications. I can select which applications I wish to record and have only them recorded. Whenever something else is launched by the user which has not been defined to be recorded, it will not be recorded. It will be grayed out. So I can either include a list of applications or I can exclude a list of applications. And I also have the option to record only metadata. So again, if we go back to the desktop environment, if we, for example, wish to record only the CRM application, I can still have everything else recorded as metadata, which will be available for the reports, will be available in the server diary, user diary, and so on. So this is very valuable information without exposing video playbacks of what users did. Any questions?
We do have a couple more questions, but definitely, guys, feel free to ask more. And one of the questions, and these are still back to the install stuff. I think people like it and they want to know what it takes to install. So what OS does this install on?
Currently, we support Windows environments. So this is from Windows NT and up. The server component needs to include a SQL Server and an IIS. That is usually a server OS, so whether it's Windows 2000, 2003, or 2008. But also, we have small installations that are using XP Professional Edition that includes an IIS as well as the SQL Server Express. So if you download it for the purpose of recording a handful of servers, then the XP can be, the XP Professional can also handle that type of deployment. Does this answer the question?
I think it does. I think it does. And he says, yes, it does. Perfect.
Great.
So what format are the recordings done in?
The recordings are actually stored in a database per frame. So there's no actual video file kept anywhere. It's not in a folder. Everything is stored as separate records in a table inside the database. So whenever the recording is played back, actually what happens is that the video player extracts the information that is related to that session and it pulls it frame by frame from the video, from the database. That is why we can set granular permissions to access this recording, because nobody can just, even if it's a domain admin, cannot just go in and double click anything, or even a database administrator will need to somehow understand which frames are related to a specific session. And we also encrypt the data, we digital sign it, and we make it very secure and hard to access without using our web console. You also have the option, if you're an administrator, to export specific sessions to a standalone executable if you need to burn it on a DVD and take it somewhere else. So this is an option that we provide. But on a day-to-day basis, the only way to view these sessions is using the web browser and having our video player to play it back. And because it's web-based, you do not need any codec to download. It's basically just HTML with JavaScript that pulls the relevant frame.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Here's another question. We have several Citrix servers, but we use published applications. So applications can load for the user from different servers. Will this still record the user session from each server?
Yes, absolutely. So we have many installations around the world that are using Citrix, actually more and more every day. People are using the Citrix for many reasons, also, of course, for recording end-user activity, but actually, I'm going to also cover later about the gateway architecture. So we have customers that are using Citrix, for example, to record remote vendors. So instead of having remote vendors directly access a specific target server, they set up a Citrix gateway, they publish the RDP, and they have people use the Citrix to record the external user's activity. So it's like a single point of recording. So that is why we have more and more Citrix installations. And what you can do, basically, instead of using the server diary, you can just select the user, and you can see all activity related to that user instead of selecting a server, and that will include sessions from multiple servers. Okay.
Perfect. Perfect.
We can see, for example, this user, we can see that we have sessions from this server and from that server. And if you pick maybe Daniel, he has more sessions. Doesn't have any sessions on this user diary. Does this answer your question?
Well, we will find out. And in what? Yep, great. He says great. Perfect. So here's another question. Um, what happens if I'm what happens if I install the agent in one of my servers and try to perform a change through console from another host? This change should be recorded?
Currently, we record Windows sessions, so this type of activity will not be recorded. We record terminal sessions, VNC, console sessions, so these are the type of sessions that we record. However, we have actually many customers that are also deploying this on desktop and defining rules such as record only MMC or record only specific applications, and then you record only that type of activity without the need to record users, private data. If they're using Messenger, Skype, or something like that, you do not record that. You record only their administrative activity.
Perfect, perfect. And another question here, does this work with RDP? In particular, they're using AEP's Natilla platform. So let's say you were using that platform or VMware View or just plain old terminal services or remote desktop services or whatever people feel like calling it.
Yeah, so we're agnostic to the client access application. So whether it's a VMware View, RDP, VNC, VMware, all this type of applications are recorded, and of course, just console access. If you go down to the server room and access the server or using a KVM, all this will be recorded.
Perfect, perfect. And then another question, which I'm pretty sure the answer here is yes, but will it record applications if you're logging in via web interface?
If you're on the server, then yes. But anything that is a client server application, then no. Again, we're recording Windows sessions. So if you are using your web app, if you have, for example, this application on your IIS server, and you're using web Outlook access from your home to access your inbox, then this will not be recorded. But when somebody opens any web application on the IIS server, then yes.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, well, let's continue on. I know we have a lot to cover, and we have about 15 minutes left of the regular time, and then we'll go over if we need a little bit of extra time if people want to stick around. And then obviously we are also recording this, so if you need to drop off at the top of the hour, then you can definitely watch the recorded version. So please continue, Daniel.
Okay, great. Two more features that I want to share with you guys is identification. So if any of you have users that log in using generic login accounts such as administrator, the built-in administrator account, when you log into the server using that generic login account, we can force the user to identify before having access to the desktop. And using this secondary identification, you can bind it to an LDAP directory that could be an Active Directory, or you can set up users within ObserveIT, and they will be forced to set up another user, to enter another user, and that is how you can know who the actual user is versus just the login name. So this is very useful in DMZ environments where you don't have, for example, Active Directory, or when you have users still using the built-in administrator account. The next thing is messages. Messages is a way for you to create a message and define that message to be sent to a server whenever somebody logs in. So for example, if you want to force somebody to enter a ticket number just after logging to Windows, you can do that using this message. Or if you want, for example, to let people enter who approved access to that server, you can do that using this message. And the way it looks like is like this. So right after the Windows logon, the user will see the ObserveIT message, for example here, who approved access to this server. The user will need to type something in, and that will be also part of the metadata. And you can also have alerts whether he acknowledged or not. You can also create reports and you can also search. For example, if you want him to enter a ticket number, you can have a report that shows you all ticket numbers. This is very useful when you want to collaborate with external users that are not in-house. So if you want them to be notified about something like, for example, do not upgrade this application before getting approval or something like that, this is a very nice way to achieve that. So this covers the demo of the professional. Again, we have many other advanced options, but I think for a first overview, this
Perfect.
gives you a good summary. In terms of recording size, as we said, it's a small recording size, and the reason is because we trim idle time. Most of the recording is only actual user activity. So when somebody is reading, thinking, and so on, we don't record that, which reduces significantly the amount of data we capture. Each video is searchable for the metadata, as you've seen, and you do not need to play. You do not need any plugin to your Internet Explorer or any codec in order to play back a session. We also have integration. We integrate with systems such as Microsoft System Center, HP OpenView, Server is Alive, SolarWind, and so on. And we provide a data source for real-time alerts. So if you wish to set up an alert, for example, whenever somebody changes the web.config, you want to know about it, or whenever somebody accesses the salary.xls file, you can set up an alert that will be triggered by any monitoring system out there. So let's talk about architecture. It's an agent-based architecture, so servers that you wish to record need an agent. The agent runs on user mode, so it's not a service, and it's protected by a watchdog. So if somebody tries to kill the agent, it will be restarted by the watchdog. And if somebody did somehow succeed killing both the agent and the watchdog at the same time, the application server will send an alert saying that on this server, the agent was tampered, was killed, or was stopped in any way. This is because the agent sends keep alive to the application server. Everything happens in real time and is stored inside the database server, and we have the management server, which extracts the data from the database server and displays it to the user. So this is the very basic architecture. What we see today is many customers are purchasing our software for recording external users. So, and this is what I referred to earlier. Instead of opening VPN access to the external users, it could be a consultant, it could be just an employee working from home. Instead of enabling access directly to the target server, you put a terminal server or a Citrix box in the middle, and you route all users through that server, that single box. Once they're in, you can either use secondary applications such as if it's a Unix box they need to access, it could be PuTTY. If it's a database administrator, it could be SQL Server Express or Toad. And if it's just an administrator, you can also provide secondary RDP sessions to the target servers. And what you need to do next is record that single point. So you record that server. If you need high availability, you can use 2 servers. And using this type of architecture, you can record all your external access without having to deploy any agent on the target servers. And of course, in terms of pricing, it's usually much less than having to install an agent on each server. Our pricing model is based on per server. It's not per user. So if you buy it for a terminal box, it costs a little bit more than the regular server, which is limited up to 3 concurrent sessions. But any of the agents is not, the terminal server is not limited to the number of users. So if you have unlimited users on a box, we have customers that are recording over 70 concurrent users on a single Citrix box, and all they need is just a single agent. So, as I said, we price our software per agent and not per user. some of the frequently asked questions is, how much storage does it consume? We have a customer that records over 1,000 servers, and he reported to us that our software generates about 150 gigabytes per data per year. So this is not a large number for recording administrative tasks. Of course, this is not for recording end-user activity, such as desktops. We're talking about recording administrative tasks on servers. In terms of footprint of the agent, it's usually about anywhere between 1% to 5% CPU, again, based on the hardware that you have. And in terms of what do we record? We record Windows sessions. And as I said before, we are agnostic to the client access method. So anything which is a Windows session, including terminal Citrix and so on, will be fully recorded. Daniel, do you want to cover the Windows 2008? Just a second.
Perfect. And definitely, guys, while we're waiting for...
ObserveIT integrates fully with the Windows 2008 remote desktop services. We're talking about R2, but even with terminal services on the previous version of Windows 2008, ObserveIT fully integrates with most aspects of this Microsoft-based solution. And we're talking about either regular terminal services access, meaning that you can install the agent on the terminal server host, the machine that hosts the user sessions. Or if you're using VDI, virtual desktop infrastructure, and if you're basing your solution on Hyper-V to host virtual machines that users access, like Windows 7 or Windows Vista or Windows XP virtual machines, you can install the agent on those machines, and when the users log on and run their applications, all their actions will be recorded. Naturally, for a lot of user accessing the systems at the same time, this will generate a lot of data. So in most cases, what we do is we use the professional version configuration options and filter the applications that are being recorded in order not to overwhelm ourselves with irrelevant data. We also allow recording of remote applications and, of course, full desktops. This means that if we use remote apps to publish applications to our users, such as Office applications or other business line applications that we have, then ObserveIT can be installed on the machine that is running those applications. And again, the applications will be recorded, and that doesn't mean that we are missing anything with the user logs. When we're talking about desktop web access, and again, remote application, but accessing it through web access, and as you probably know, Microsoft has added the web access method to Windows 2008. This means that the users are using the web browser to initiate their either desktop or virtual desktop or remote applications access. When a user opens the web browser, they log on to the portal, and then they get a list of all the applications that are published. And again, because the ObserveIT agent can record these applications, this means that we just need to install them on the back-end terminal servers, and again, everything is recorded. As for single sign-on, again, this is something that we integrate with, and when a user opens an application, because they logged on to Windows, we know exactly who that user is. So we can give you a very good representation of all the user actions, and there's nothing that we're missing in that area. The last aspect is the remote desktop gateway solution, which is, again, this is something rather new in Windows 2008 and in R2. which means that users can use SSL sessions that encapsulate RDP connections, and these can easily traverse firewalls. And actually, this kind of replaces VPN solutions or SSL VPN solutions, and it's a built-in solution in Microsoft Windows 2008. And again, Observer doesn't deal with how you connect to your server. You can do it via VPN or regular RDP connections, but the moment you are logged on using your applications or your desktop, then you can be recorded. Does this make sense, guys?
Makes sense to me. And guys, definitely if you have any questions, please feel free. It's right at the top of the hour, so we're going to get ready and to close this podcast up, call it an episode. But at the same time, we want to make sure we get through your questions. So if you have any questions at all, please feel free to ask them within the questions box of GoToWebinar, and we will answer them. Anything else from you guys, Gabby, Danielle?
Okay, so I'll transfer the mic to Gabby.
Okay. So the last thing that we want to talk to you today about is competitors. And the main competitor today is Citrix Mod Auditor. Probably many of you are familiar with this software. And I think the main difference today between us and the Citrix Mod Auditor are two differences. First, we record more than Citrix. We don't record only Citrix. As I said, we're agnostic to the Access application. So whether you are in console session, VMware View, basically any method of access, we will record what is happening on the screen. And the second thing is the metadata capturing. We automatically capture metadata. You don't need any API to add metadata to the recording. It's not limited to the application name and username or the connection property. We record every user interaction. So you can see before playing back the session what it includes. So this eliminates the need to play back hours and hours of recordings, and you can easily generate reports even when you have thousands of recordings, as you've seen in the demo, instead of having to play back each session from start till end. So these two features actually also are the differentiator between most of the software out there, which are usually network recorders that record at the protocol level. So it's nice recording at the protocol level. However, you don't get this this metadata recording that will eliminate the need playing back each session every time. Well, that's it for today. Doug?
Thanks, everybody, for attending. I want to thank my guests for today, Gabby and Daniel from ObserveIT. And really neat product. I hope you guys go out and download it. So if you wanted to learn more, up on the screen right now is www.observeit-sys.com, and go out there and just go ahead and download the free trial and test that out. And then definitely download the full blown thing and see, so you can see all the advanced features that they talked about. Neat stuff. So guys, I appreciate your time. We have another webinar next week, so definitely attend that one. That one is on some Citrix web interface configuration. So we're bringing in some guys from Citrix, and one of the former guys that actually was responsible for writing Metaframe. So he was one of the lead developers on Metaframe to talk to us about this stuff, and that's always fun. So excited about next week, but I really hope you guys enjoyed this week, because I really, really like this product. And one person said you need to sell this to Citrix. So, and I won't say what they said after that, but it's neat stuff. So guys, thank you so much for attending this webinar. And again, thanks to my guests today for taking the time to present it to us. So thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you all for attending this webinar.